can record. It's working. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so welcome. We're gonna do Be Brave Boundaries workshop, part of these sessions. Boundaries is very, very exciting and nerve-wracking topic because as for centuries, especially women, I know in this container there's women only, they're like we have been shut down, not to express ourselves, that our opinions don't matter, people don't take us seriously. And when we are getting into so-called power positions these days, also can be very challenging in a workplace, to set boundaries, people to listen to you. So we're going to go all over that. So you will leave, my intention for you to leave from this workshop is that you have a clear understanding where your boundaries are, what kind of boundaries there are, because, it can be like a mesh, and then how to set, healthy boundaries, and what is the framework around you showing up for those boundaries. So personally, boundaries have been like such a challenge for me, because I come from like people pleasing, and there's like this fine line where it's the people pleasing and then getting your own needs and wants met. So especially in any kind of relationship, but especially if you're in a partnership or if you are in a work relationship, and especially with family relationships, it's like, where goes the line between those two? So just know that there's no right or wrong. It's all about you testing it out, having trial and error, and there's no mistakes. It's all about learning. So in the previous session, we talked about a goal line. So what we want in the physical realm, okay, we want to create X amount of dollars. We want to get this job position, versus like the vertical line, which is the soul line, the learning line. So who do we need to be in order to create that? And many times there can be communication is key, especially when it comes to relationships. So boundaries are a powerful way for us to create more of that who we are. And like really boundaries, I have somehow, like, I don't know about you, but I have a negative tone around boundaries. It's like, well, that can, if somebody is, and feel free to share, Laura, like it can feel that if somebody is building the boundary, it can feel like very disturbing, like this person is arrogant. And it can feel, at least in my experience, when I have actually stepped up and expressed myself and shared like, that's a no-go, and taught how people talk to me or how they touch me. It feels kind of like when I do that, then there's a guilt that comes right after. So over centuries, I will share with you some of the reasons why women specifically suffer or struggle with boundaries is the guilt that comes right after when you actually express yourself. It's like, oh, what did I do? And then also fear of rejection. Just notice if any of these align with you. Fear of rejection, abandonment, or fear of not belonging. Fear of confrontation. Yes, I know many women, people who I serve. It's like fear of confrontation is real. Like, I don't want to also like get in front of, you know, like I have a negative tone around confrontation, whereas when we move the lens of how we look at it, instead of it's, oh my God, it's confrontation, it's more like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for everybody to share, you know, what they would like or what they don't like. So just noticing that these things, that how we have been behaving and how we have been thinking, in order for us to create a new reality, it needs to come from a different level of energy. It cannot come from the same energy that it was created from. So yeah, there are other things that can, this is big for me, like fear of missing out, you know, like saying no to something that you're in your head, you want to do it, but your heart is saying no. So like there's this fear of missing out. And thus it will be powerful for you also, if you know your human design, to know if you are a generator, because generator energy is like a hell yes energy from inside. But it's if it's a maybe, then it maybe means that it's your head trying to come in the halfway, try to figure it out, or saying like convince you to do something that is in the body is a no. And then also one thing that around boundaries, what struggle with boundaries, especially women, is because we are not necessarily asking for help. And this has been a big part of my own journey. You can write in the comments or share if any of these resonate with you, especially Laura. Like fear of like, I don't want to ask for help. You know, I've been always, and I was raised, you know, to be independent. So I can figure it out. I can create my own money. I can move to the other side of the world. But really, not asking for help can, you know, get your Achilles heel, meaning like it will get you eventually. So learning to ask for help has been very powerful. Okay, there you go. So what comes up for you from this?
Yeah, I would say I have sometimes difficulty asking for help. Sometimes it's just easier to do it than ask, and then your energy is depleted even further.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that energy is depleted even further if you try to do it on your own and you're not asking for your help, for others' help. And the thing is, like, personal boundaries, like we many times override our own needs and what we need. And at this stage and age that we are in, we can easily get depleted because we are just trying to go with the energy of the universe, meaning like the energy of the society, which is super fast paced, super toxic. It's not heart space at all, you know, and it can be over, you know, the whole boundaries is around your throat chakra, which is also connected to healing, connected to communication. And we are today new moon in Gemini, and Gemini is known for being a communicator. So this is like really powerful time for us to create these boundaries, and like having more understanding around boundaries, and really see like what's there for us that we are not necessarily seeing yet, and really creating what, because we know it, you know, inside of us, but many times our head blocks us from actually understanding what are good boundaries for us, what are not. Yeah, so there are different kinds of boundaries. The first one is, and you can write this down if you would like, but this is physical boundaries. Physical boundaries are needs for personal space. So I come from Finland, and in Finland, people are very reserved. So personal boundaries, typically 80 centimeters, that's been researched. 80 centimeters is 2.5 feet. Yeah. So like if you come any closer, then I go further back. Obviously, I feel like my personal space has changed since I have been, living in the US, living in Costa Rica, because it's very different, very, very different. So, and that there's cultural things, but then there's the most important one is your own personal comfort zone. And it's okay for you to say, like, if somebody is in your space or disturbing your personal space, that it's not okay. So I'm talking right now, personal space around you right here, if somebody's around you. But I'm also talking about personal space as like rooms. Like you can have your own room, or you can have your own area, or you can have your own casita, like a different place that is not, necessarily right here, but it's a physical place. And then if somebody is walking over there, coming in hot, coming in without asking permission. So just know that it's for space, and it's for the touch, but it's also for any physical needs. So physical needs like needing to rest, eating food, drinking water. So these all go into the physical boundaries. So it is okay to let people know you don't want to be touched or that you need more space. It is also okay to say that you're hungry or that you need to rest, or you're thirsty. Like these are all like boundaries. I'm seeing you laughing, smiling over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the healthy physical boundaries might sound like I'm really tired, I need to sit down now. Like I'm not a big hugger, so a handshake will be fine. I'm a handshake person. And this is interesting because I'm very touchy person. So I don't necessarily, like if somebody's around me, like I want to touch them on the shoulder or hold their hand, or so it's very interesting. I have a story about this. I haven't thought about it in a long time. I used to teach a lot of fitness classes. I was a graduate assistant for fitness in UNT, University of North Texas. I was teaching some energetic class there, something, cardio mixed with strength. And I put people out to go around a lap and then come back to the room. And when I was waiting people to come in, there was like 30 people in the class. I was giving everybody high fives. I was a huge high five girl. I played volleyball. So I was always like a hand up and giving high fives and touching. So I remember I got an email from actually my own instructor. So like I was their instructor supervisor, and she just happened to take my class that day. And she didn't give me a high five. She was the only one who didn't give a high five. And she sent me an email afterwards saying like, I don't feel comfortable that you are asking people to touch. Like I rather just be on my own space. So she clearly, like back then I was like, what is this? Like, really? But now I understand she was creating a boundary. She wasn't feeling comfortable with it. So she verbalized it. Now that I'm talking, like, I need to reach out to her and say thank you. She created a boundary for herself. So good for her. So sometimes people don't get your boundaries, and that's okay. As long as it's like true for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so those are physical boundaries. Also, I'm in a committed relationship with Brandon. This is our 7th year. I have taught him how to touch me. I have a history of, I didn't realize this until recently, that I have been sexually assaulted, not sexually abused, assaulted, like something went over my boundaries when we were in a sexual interaction. And I realized that as I have been doing a lot of alignment and work with the womb, and especially sacral chakra is connected to the womb space and your sexuality and pleasure. Like I started to realize that I didn't like some of the ways that Brandon was touching me, because it reminded me of like I didn't want to be touched that way. So I needed to teach him how to touch me, as interesting as it may sound. But this is like, just know that it's never too late. Like when you have an insight for this, it's important that you are starting from here onwards, taking action. It doesn't matter. You are not late, you are not late in the process at all. We are just creating the level of awareness and understanding around, like where our boundaries are. Yeah. Okay. So emotional boundaries is next. Emotional boundaries are all about respecting and honoring feelings and energy. So setting emotional boundaries means recognizing how much emotional energy you are capable of taking and taking in, knowing where to share and when not to share, and limiting emotional sharing with people who respond poorly. How many of us have been there? And I've given an example of my own parents. I love them dearly, but unfortunately they are not necessarily emotionally capable of being there. So I have shared something with them, but they are responding poorly and not necessarily on the same wavelength, not necessarily understanding what I'm trying to communicate. So at the end of the day, it's only affecting me, because I get drained. I get extremely sad about it. And then, it's just like, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's important that we are respecting emotional boundaries. It means that we are validating the feelings of others and making sure you respect their ability to take emotional information. So this is for yourself and for the others. So, and being in a committed partnership will bring this all the time, because you will trigger each other up 24/7. Not 24/7, but there's so much opportunity for you to be triggering each other, and the people that you are closest to, because there's already such an emotional charge you being with them. So then it's extremely emotional charge when something doesn't go as you would wish for, right? So here are some examples about emotional boundaries. When I share my feelings with you and get criticized, it makes me totally shut down. I can only share with you if you are able to respond respectfully to me. So powerful. I am so sorry you are having such a tough time. Right now, I'm not in a place to take in all this information. Do you think we can come back to this conversation later? This is like literally my everyday life with Brandon. I'm not in the space to have this conversation right now and take all this energy in. Can we circle back at dinner time? And then you're asking for the other person's. So it's literally like, I'm telling you, this is like story of my life. Trying to respect and honor the emotional boundaries, which has been so hard for me because Brandon does a really good job with boundaries. He has taught me so much. And I have been the one who has been overriding because I have had this expectation that he would be there for me anytime I want it. But then when he asked more help, then I was like, nope, I'm not capable. So it's interesting. I have this expectation. He doesn't necessarily have it anymore that much, but I sometimes still hold on to that, even though he's now very clear, like expressing like, nope, we cannot do it right now. Can we do it later? But I'm like in the expectation, it needs to happen right now. So then another might sound like, I am having a hard time and really need to talk. Are you in a place to listen right now? Typically, in my case, it's no. And then I really cannot talk. I really cannot talk about it right now. It isn't a right time. Yeah. So then I want to talk about emotional boundary violations that might happen. So dismissing and criticizing feelings is one. Asking questions that are not appropriate for the relationship. Reading or going through personal and emotional information. This is like really, really a thing with journaling. People don't necessarily trust that their boundaries are honored and respected if they write things down. And you may have felt that yourself, that you need to hide some things. And journal is just one thing, but hide some, making sure that nobody is able to read your text messages. Making sure that you are aware of this, that what are the violations. Another fourth one is asking people to justify their feelings. Assuming we know how other people feel. Assuming is and expecting things are really hitting yourself nail in your foot. Like how can we live from a place of no expectations? So when we come from a place of no expectations, then there will be most likely more communication, right? Because you are making sure that everybody's on the same page and not assuming, and although we all do that, but just the idea of it, like try to see if that would be possible. Like live from a place of there's more requests rather than complaints. There's more communication rather than assumptions. And agreements rather than assumptions. Emotionally dumping on people without their permission is also a violation. Can you talk with me right now? And then when the other person says yes, okay, and then you can let it out. But if they say no, and if they are not capable of being there, then that's not the right person for you to go. And one thing that came up, I want to share this from my own experience. I used to not have any girlfriends that I could share like feelings with or more deeper stuff with. That's why I'm even probably in this field to share this kind of spaces for other women to have these kind of relationships, because I didn't have any. I didn't have any, I couldn't, like, Brandon was the one I was dumping everything to. And I didn't have a coach back then. I didn't have any kind of circle of women that I could deeply talk with, who were in the space or understanding. I had a lot of Finnish friends, love them to dear to my heart. However, in my own growth journey, my chosen path, this self-development journey, it started to feel very lonely. Lonely because I was not able to share it with others. So I was emotionally dumping on Brandon a lot, because he was one of the only people that I could understand me, and, you know, he's my partner. So then I thought that, yeah, I can just tell everything. And obviously I can tell everything for him. But it's not necessarily fair to him, you know? And we have had this both ways. So eventually, like, he invited me, like, why don't you go on a retreat or have some women's circle or get a coach? Like, what kind of support you are getting outside of myself? And I'm like, nothing. And he's like, I'm not capable of taking this. I'm not capable of being. And then 2018, when I was going through a lot of my own turmoil, physically and emotionally, I hired a holistic nutritionist who was a life-changing, amazing support, because I was actually able to emotionally also, like, I paid somebody to emotionally hold the space for me. But that's what we need to do also. Like, it's not responsible. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and not blame the others. So just know that where the emotional violation, boundary violation can go, emotionally dumping on things to others rather than asking for permission. And then when it comes to children, this also go into that, like, sharing inappropriate emotional information with children is also a no-go. I come from a family where I was 11 years old when my mom and dad divorced. So I became like intermediate between mom and dad. And there was a lot of emotional inappropriate information that I didn't need to know at that age. So just know also that your mom and dad and your, like, loved ones, they just do the best that they can. Like, they just don't know any better. And especially when they're emotionally charged, especially, like, we can be emotionally charged with love, but then there's the opposite of that. Also, we can be emotionally charged with fear, emotionally charged with anger. So it will, like, it's important that we align ourselves each and every day. We take care of ourselves, and really it's not anybody else's responsibility. Like, how can we stop blaming? And everybody around you is a reflection of yourself. So yeah, boundaries. This is emotionally charged topic for me too, if you can not feel it yet. So next one is time boundaries. So your time is valuable. It is important to protect how it is utilized. So setting time boundaries is incredibly important at work, at home, and socially. But definitely this time and age, I know all of you are living in the States, doing your, work. It's important that we are taking care of time boundaries, and many times they can suck your energy, give you more things on your plate. And where goes the line that you are, again, like, what are, like, appropriate, what are not, what are in the contract? That's why I always suggest to create writing, like everything in writing, in contracts. I've learned the lesson myself. I was just so depleted. People were just asking things from me, even though I love my job. But eventually I was going through 7 different studios back in the day when I was in a yoga studio. Then when I was working for corporate America on the cruise ship, they did not care. They just cared for the money that I was bringing in. See, by the way, anytime your throat is starting to do this, it means that your throat chakra is communicating with you. I'm healing. There's something to be cautious of. So if you ever start coughing, you lose your voice, what is there for you to like see? So something here, what I just shared about me being in the yoga studio, which I have been done so much work, but I got fired from there. So I literally, I'm so grateful that I got fired because it aligned so many other things for my life, but maybe there's something, or then there's something that I shared about corporate America being on the cruise ship. And then I feel like that's more that because I just swallowed as well. Swallowing is something where you start swallowing. Brendan keeps telling me, okay, there goes the throat twerk, twerking. My throat starts to make certain kind of movement. So just like paying attention. Now my thing is starting to move again. This is good that this is happening because you get to see a real life example how it can be. So many times, like our boundaries, time boundaries especially, are overridden, or like our needs are overridden in work. Like we don't necessarily have that much to share. I know, Laura, we have talked about this and how much this has been also like a thing that job is requiring a lot, and then like your other life is kind of becoming secondary. So setting boundaries, time boundaries, means understanding your priorities and setting aside enough time for the many areas of your life without over committing. So priorities, and then setting understanding your priorities, and then setting aside enough time for the many areas of your life without over committing. This is good. Priorities and over committed, or commitment in general. Like I have a tendency that I easily can overcommit myself, because I still feel that I was the Vera that I was at 20 years old, who was bouncing from one place to another. No. That's not the 35-year-old Vera anymore. Like that, she's way wiser than that. But sometimes she goes into that mode, and that's okay. But it's my responsibility. The wise woman within me, we're talking about archetypes. Wise woman, the grandma within me, is to pull that, young, playful, I can do everything, having so much full of energy. Like, no, I don't have that energy anymore. So it's important for me to understand where I am and not over committing to myself. Plus, to know like how much time I actually have, especially if you're in a place where, okay, job is taking time 8 to 10 hours per day, for example. So, and then if we want to make sure that we are getting enough sleep. So for me, that would be 9 hours of sleep. So 9 plus 10 is 19. And then there's 24 hours. So that is 5 hours left. Obviously, we need to eat, we need to drink, we need to rest. There's all these shows, there's all these programs. We want to also maybe be in the self-development space and really like build our new habits and heal our past so we can develop more. But sometimes like it can be very emotional, and then the time around emotions that we cannot just say like, hey, I have 30 minutes for emotions. No. So it's really coming down into like what your priorities are. And just know also like everything is cyclic, everything is seasonal. So what season of your life are you in right now? You can write in your journal. What season are you in? Are you in the spring energy? Are you in the summer energy, going all out and having full energy and lightness? Are you more in the inner fall, autumn, where it's more like letting go of things, leaves turning colors, releasing? Or are you more in the winter season where you want to stay more closed doors, you want to snuggle in, you want to kind of go like this new moon time that we are in, like go more deeply within you? So it's just noticing. There's no right or wrong. It's a really powerful question that you can start asking yourself. And then let's talk about healthy time boundaries, what they might sound like. I cannot come to that event this weekend, but luckily you did. I can only stay for an hour. Do you have time to chat today? You have time to chat tomorrow between 1 and 3 o'clock. I would love to help, but I would be overcommitting myself. Is there another time? This is very powerful. Somebody invites you into things and you said, I would love to, but I would be overcommitting myself. And is there another time? Could this work? You know, like it's truly like connecting with your heart instead of going through the stories, what I should be doing. And how can we erase the word should with would or could? I literally will tell you, you will change all of your vocabulary. Like you can change all of your vocabulary. Every time you from now on say, I should be doing something, it's like, no, I could be doing this, but I choose the other way. I choose to say no. I choose to say no. One of my own clients told me a couple of years ago, she told me that every no, Vera, is yes to something else. So it's okay for you to say no. And you can say no to me. And I'm saying the same to you. Like every no is yes to something else, because it's all about the prioritizing what's important for you. And especially when it comes to time boundaries, like it's important. We are souls living in this human experience, and we have stuff going on. And we want to be conscious of it. We want to live it and feel it. It's our responsibility to create the boundaries around it. Okay, so another two, I will tell you other two. So we have family time on Sundays, so I won't make it. Or I am happy to help with that. My hourly rate is la 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 la. So violated time boundaries look like asking professionals for their time without paying them, demanding time from people, keeping people in conversations or on tasks for longer than we told them we would, you know, like, hey, this project will take us 2 hours. And then 3.5 hours later, we're still working on that. So it's important, like how you can create in those conversations. Like what I do with my own clients, it's like we have 60 or 90-minute sessions. I'm like, okay, we're just starting to open up a conversation for something bigger here. And I'm cautious of our time. We have 10 minutes. So would you be open to like talk about this for the next 5 minutes, and then we put a cap on it, and then we come back into it next time? Or like, would you already like just like letting people know? So it's important that we are just like where your own boundaries, because many times I can recognize that people will take your time unless you are the one creating the boundaries. How many of us like feel that in every single day, or like in a regular basis? Yeah. And maybe some people come into your surface right now as we are talking. That's powerful information for you, because there's something for you to understand, to create, to have a conversation, to a new, like, you creating. And one thing that I have, like, what has helped me really is with the expression part, internal expression, is the journaling. So journaling is something that I can practice saying things that I want to say. And many times, because I'm so emotionally charged with Brandon, and we live, very far away from our family, so we can be each other's emotionally, like the most emotionally charged people, love each other so much. Yet, like, when there's turmoil, like, it feels so groundless and it feels like a freaking tornado. But I many times, because I'm so in the emotion, so I write down things, and I'm back again in the motion so much, and then I'm writing down that I remember. And sometimes I take to our conversation when we are trying to settle things in, I take my journal so that I can have some kind of like something I can hold on to, because the emotions can take over. So just know that it's important for you you are the one who is creating these boundaries. Other people can be beautiful examples for you for boundaries, but it's really our own responsibility. And then we talked about a little bit about boundaries, physical boundaries, about sexual boundaries, but healthy sexual boundaries include getting consent, agreement, having a verbal agreement, respect, understanding or preferences and desires, and privacy. So healthy sexual boundaries include asking for the consent, discussing and asking for what pleases you, like not having it as a taboo, like I was raised, like I was never explained anything around this area. Whereas it's very powerful when you start openly discussing and sharing, like, hey, that actually doesn't work. Because I have had the fear of being alone. Like, if I share something and put a boundary, then they will leave me. This was a powerful story that I was creating for a long, long time in my life. So, saying no to things that you do not like and that hurt you, and protecting the privacy of the other person as well is a huge one. So we want to make sure that we are respectful and honoring the needs and wants, and also the person as a whole. So yeah, those are ones. Let me see. What comes up for you? You can put it in the chat, or you can share.
I like the healthy time boundaries and telling people that if I do this, it will overcommit myself. I think that's a good one for mine.
Yeah. Powerful. Glad to hear that it resonates with you. And sounds like to me, like how you're communicating is like you can take action upon it immediately.
Yeah.
the feeling what I get. Okay, there's a butterfly.
Oh,
Butterfly, butterfly. What else? So we talked about personal space, physical space, or physical boundaries. We talked about time boundaries, conversational boundaries, like, hey, is this okay with you if I share this with you? We talked about the emotional boundaries. Intellectual boundaries are some also. Let me see. And material boundaries are also what we haven't discussed about. So intellectual boundaries refer to the thoughts, to ideas, or curiosity. And healthy intellectual boundaries include respect for the ideas of the other people, and they can be violated when your thoughts and curiosity are shut down, dismissed, or belittled. Respectfulness and willingness to dialogue and understand are important here. So they are also considering whether or not it is good time to talk about something or not. So it might sound like, I know we disagree, but I won't let you belittle me like that. I haven't said that out loud, but I have said like, I know we disagree on things, but I'm not tolerating that kind of verbiage around me, or how you talk to me, belittling me, or because that's like in my past, how was communicated. My dad was more like there's like this wolf and turtle. And when we are in conversation, there can be the wolf, and then the turtle, shuts down, and the wolf gets bigger, So it's important that we are opening the turtle up a little bit. So if this is you, when you feel like you shut down, it's important that there's a safe space for you to start opening yourself up and be like understood, being like having your space to share, and then that the wolf will come, like lower down the volume, that there can be, like conversation around things. So that's something that I use very much so. But in the past, I would just go to the other room, and I was not capable of saying anything. Like even me just doing this workshop with you here, it's like huge, because I would not be like comfortable with myself expressing myself. So how I would do like we usually do things, like children, we go to the children stage. We don't necessarily know how to communicate, but our behavior will share like how we are feeling. So just know that inside of us, there's the little child still living within. And when she's not happy, like we need to go and nurture her, like understand and get her out of the turtle mode. Or, if she's super like violent with her words and being the wolf, like how can we calm it down so there can be a common ground? Something that can sound for this intellectual boundary, like you can say, I would love to talk about this more, but I don't think talking about it during Thanksgiving dinner is the best time, or birthday is the best time for that, or like being during this travel is the best time to talk about something that happened in the past or anything like that. When we talk about this, we don't get very far. I think it's a good idea to avoid this conversation right now. We usually say with Brandon that we put a pause on this for now. So it still can be on the field, but at least we are mutually agreeing that, okay, we still need to like get our own energy up, up a notch. Because when we both are in an insecurity, and this is like with your job, if you are both in an insecurity place, both of you are defensive easily, then there's no common ground coming through. You're just clutching on each other. So it's important that you level up your own energy, understand, align your energy so you are in a higher vibration. And then when both people are in a higher vibration, then they can talk. But it doesn't work the way that one is higher, one is lower energy, feeling insecure, feeling afraid, feeling extremely emotionally charged. And it needs to be both people. This is a really good book around this. It's called The Relationship Handbook, but that's Relationship Handbook for Anything. It's by Brodsky, but it's basically the idea, and that goes to any relationship you have, whether it's with your mom, whether it's with your dad, whether it's with your siblings, whether it's with your coworker, whether it's with your boss, whether it's with your partner, with your child, any relationship. We need to, obviously with the child, like they don't know how to get necessarily to the higher vibration. So we need to teach them how to get to the higher vibration. But it's important that we are taking the responsibility of lifting our own energy up, lifting ourselves to the alignment that we are. Okay. And then the last but not least is material boundaries. So they refer to items or possessions like your home, car, clothing, jewelry, furniture, money. It is healthy to understand, yet you can and cannot share, and how you expect your items and materials to be treated by people you share them with. So like this can be so many things, but clothing, jewelry, how like you are taking care of your stuff. It's important if somebody wants to rent them or borrow them, that you communicate with them. Like, hey, this is like, I can do it. I am more than happy to do it. Just make sure that it comes back just like I'm treating it. This is one of the things that I don't think we talk about. I don't think we talk about enough, or at least this is my experience around it. It hasn't come that much on the surface. So some of the things you can say that, I cannot lend out my car. I'm the only person on the insurance, or I am fine making sure that you take care of my car, or you drive with my car. Just make sure that you put gas on it and don't wreck it. And if you wreck it, you are the responsible for it. I cannot give any more money. I would be happy to help in another way. And just know that money, especially in the stage that we are in the society and in the finances of the world, like there's other ways to give value than money. There's other ways. And also, like, if you're borrowing money from someone, or you are borrowing for someone, just like creating boundaries around it. Like, hey, I am more than happy to give you these $2,000. However, like, let's make like a monthly payment plan for $200 for the next 10 months. Would that be okay with you? So just know that everything can be communicated. It's the way we communicate it. when we express with love, everything can be sorted out. But when it comes from a place of judgment, people will immediately feel it and they will get defensive. When it comes out of alignment, they will immediately was like, no, like it's just like an energy thing. And I'm wondering if you can like think about any situation that may have happened for you and through you, not to you, because life happens for you to understand and learn. If there's any time when that has happened, anytime. I lost my train of thought around it, but just like boundaries are like what are coming up for you right now, like where do you see an area for yourself to move forward or bring forth. And maybe you can remember, this was my question, maybe you can now feel into it like something that you shared with somebody and they got defensive immediately. But obviously it can be their own thing, but something, let's do it this way. So something that, think about a loved one who shared with you something and you responded and immediately got defensive, like it immediately got defensive, and then you they shared something with you that you didn't align with. So what is your reaction to it? What is what you're sharing? So the big thing is reaction versus response. Reaction is coming from the past ways of thinking to believing, from the programming, from the level of the society, all the things that we have taken in for all the experiences before us. So we can come from the reaction, like something triggers in us, boom, we react. But the whole idea of the self-development and creating the boundaries is that you become aware and being curious. Okay, my mom said that she took money out of my bank account without asking me. Like this is happening. I feel I'm shutting down here because this is a pattern with my family. Something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. So I told her, like, so this literally happened, that she took money out of my bank account. Bless her, like we have sorted it out. And I didn't know about it. And I got so hurt, but I was so numb. Like I was like literally like paralyzed. Like, what just happened? Like, really? And then we were on a phone call. And then I'm like, I need to go out of this phone call. Like, okay. And then I sat with it and I eventually got back, because that was the couple of days right before my retreat. And I was like, why am I so freaking frustrated? And then the morning of the retreat, earlier, a couple of months ago, I was like, I need to write down like one of my mind dump prompt from journalists, all the things that pisses me off right now, like I'm so frustrated about. And then I didn't everything that has happened, my luggage was late and all this kind of stuff. And then I put the mom, and I realized there, when I put my mom there, that this is the root of everything. This is why I'm frustrated. And she override my boundary, like that was never communicated, we actually never had a communication that you cannot, she has access to my bank account, that you cannot take money from there, like without my permission. I just had the assumption, and expectation of her. So I got into a call 2 hours before my retreat, and I shared with her that that's not okay. That's not okay for, like, if you need something, you can ask me, but you cannot do this behind my back. That's like stabbing on my back. That's how it felt like. And she was receiving it, but I could see that there was like, that it was triggering her. And she could only say, I understand. But I was expecting her to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I was expecting her to be something else than she is not, to be emotionally there for me. And then I had this realization, at least I communicate the boundary, but then there was a realization as well that, my mom is not capable of, emotionally being there for me at that level. So that triggered another, I was crying eyes out in the shower before my own retreat for 1 week. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I supposed to be holding space for 10 other people? But that needed to happen because that actually was the icebreaker of the whole retreat, and it blossomed from there. But just know that everything happens for a reason. And it's like what I shared with you, like something didn't feel right. But then it's important, we many times, and think about for yourself, we many times hold on to that, and we talk about it to somebody else, but we are not confronting the person who actually created that, because we are fear of confrontation, right? Especially when it comes to your own family members. Holy shit, having these kind of conversations with your own parents or with your own siblings or with your other loved ones, that you never necessarily had these kind of conversations. But it's important that you show up, because this is setting boundaries is for your own good. Yeah. I've been talking so much here. So much here. I would love us to shake a little bit. Shake the energy right now. So shake it. And make some sound. Or ha. Shake it, move it. I would love for you to do the sound, because that's the sound for the throat chakra. Yeah. Shake your head, nod your head. If you have neck or shoulder stuff, just know that what they are linked to, it's right here. So physical, emotional stuff, we can hold on our shoulders, our neck, and these are all connected here. And I'm bringing you the whole holistic view, because for so long time I was just on the physical realm, and in the okay, from A it's the B, cause and effect. Whereas now it's all about the vertical line for you to really understand. You will see this in the first video. You will understand what I'm talking about more, but it's more about the physical world going from A to B. It's more about who we are becoming. And boundaries, who do you need to be in order for you to create what you want to create. So the priorities that you want to pursue, rather than leaving them on the bottom of the list. What if your priorities for peace and joy are on the top of the list? Things that are for you, and then everything else will fall into place right after. All right, my dear. So let's do some work. Work. That's a Rihanna song. Work. So I want you to write down 3 examples of what you consider to be overstepping of your boundaries, what you have experienced. So put down 3 examples that you consider that has been overstepping of your boundaries, whether it's personal, whether it's emotional, whether it's intellectual, whether it's material. Sexual. And then when you have those 3, I want you to write down what is the primary emotion you feel when your boundaries are violated. What is the primary emotion? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Is it shame? Is it doubt? Resentment? What is the primary emotion you feel when your boundaries are violated? And then the third question is, what do you typically do when your boundary has been violated? What do you do? Do you go to the fridge? Do you cry your eyes out? Do you want to isolate yourself? Do you want to watch Netflix? Smoke a cigarette? Do you want to open a bottle of alcohol? You want to call a friend? What do you do when your boundary is violated? Mine is pretty easy. This was very eye-opening, like when I first time did it, when I was not very cautious of my boundaries. I realized that I always ate. I wanted to eat Nutella jars. I wanted to eat all the chocolate in the world. All food was always my thing. It's still my thing, but I like come from a different perspective for it, and obviously we need it. So let's go ahead and talk about more like the guide for you to set healthy boundaries. How to set healthy boundaries. Let me pull this up from here. So obviously, like healthy boundaries, what are they? So have high self-esteem and self-respect when creating that. Protect physical and emotional space from intrusion. Have an equal partnership where responsibility and power are shared. It's not the wolf and the tortoise. It's like the power game is equal. And how to set healthy boundaries. You can be assertive, like confidently and truthfully say yes or no. It's okay. Like I said, it's okay to say no, because when we say no, we say yes to something else. And then big thing is that we might even like mesh needs, thoughts, feelings, and desires from others. So it's important that we recognize our own boundaries and needs, and they might be different from others, and that's okay. Even if you are the only one from your circle or from that relationship, like you can create it. You can create it, because it's really like trusting that when trust is also these two chakras, when we trust that our truth is best for everybody, not only for us, but everybody, it will be a game changer. But with the trust comes testing. So you need to go out there and test these out. It's not about you are creating this information and then, I don't know, like we are doing like the same thing what we used to do. Like it's test it out, empower yourself to test it out. And that's where the trust is built. When you are connecting with your intuition, with your own alignment, it's important that you are in alignment and balanced with your energy in an everyday basis, so you can put these forward for yourself. So one thing that so I would love for you to set these healthy boundaries is like first one, there's 4 spots. So first one is determine your top priorities in work and in life. So maybe you can write down right now, what are your top priorities in work? 3 of them, or 1 to 3 of them. And then next to it is like life. So what are your 3 top priorities in life? So then how this works is like we're gonna test it out. So I talked about testing versus trusting. The trust is built from the testing. So you're gonna test out one hard boundary, which is non-negotiable. And then number 3 is practice a few soft boundaries. So let's talk about this. So the 4th part is commitment into those. Give me 1 second. So, you know, the pretty like solid boundaries, the non-negotiables, boundaries that you are unwilling to compromise on and need to act on immediately. Think of them as things you will never do or never accept as reasonable. So for example, I will never take on a client that can only meet me on Fridays. I will have conversation with my boss on Mondays. So hard boundary. I will make sure that all good, Laura. I make sure that we are having dinner together. That's a non-negotiable in our house, that we are having a dinner together. Boom. So you can write one solid boundary for yourself. And then we're going to go ahead and create a couple of gentle boundaries. So these are more like aspirations. So boundaries are more like wishes that you are willing to compromise on. Think of them as goals you want to reach and but flexible, being flexible around. So for example, so maybe you want to finish at 4:30 instead of 5:30, but other people, for instance, your manager, are involved in making that a reality. So this is an aspiration of you, and it maybe requires for you to share that. And maybe there's like, I want to do 3 days a week, leaving 4:30, so I can go and do my Pilates class or yoga class, or I can be part of Vera's program. There you go. So you can decide to take it slow and think about how you will initiate that conversation. But think about something like, these are like few things. So think always, you can start with one for the solid boundaries, and then a few for the gentle boundaries, the soft boundaries that are more like aspiration. What would you love? What would you love that might require somebody else to be part of it? And then the last part is commit. Commit. So you now have some time to test out a few to protect your time, your energy, your well-being with these, solid boundary as well as the gentle boundary. You want to commit to them. So commitment is something, like we do 30-day challenge. Think about this more like an experiment. If you want to do 30 days, great. But if you want to do just like, okay, this weekend or next week, next 7 days, I commit to, and then create the boundary. So it's all about you becoming aware of what you are committing to. So what is a boundary that you would like to commit to? A solid one, a challenging one that is a little bit outside of the comfort zone, and that's like a non-negotiable. And then what is something that is your aspiration around it. So once you have that, let's come all the way into C. Let's drop our pen down and close our eyes and breathe through the mouth, in and out through the mouth. Let's go ahead and move a little bit the juice in our neck area. Move it through the shoulders, through the neck, through the heart. We have done a lot of these beautiful somatics, sensory awareness practices today, earlier. But this is how we get back in touch with ourselves, with our truth, because the trip that we want to go is from the head to the heart, and throw this in the middle of that. Yeah. So move your shoulders a little bit. You can take your hands on your shoulders, stretch a little bit, take your hands behind you, crack, crack, crack. I could hear from my shoulders. Lower the right ear to your right shoulder. Look down underneath your right armpit. Move all the way to the left side. Lower down, looking underneath the left armpit. Yes, and then coming back into center. Let's take a breath in, breath out. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. And we will continue with the next sessions that will start tomorrow. And take care for the rest of the day.